Up next, we got to talk about one of the left's biggest lies about Trump that just imploded before our eyes. So you might remember this, and I encountered it at every turn online, in the media, even in commercials that were spammed to me on my television and my YouTube because I'm in Michigan. All over and over and over again, Democrats and liberals and progressives told us that Donald Trump would ban IVF. Something, Project 2025, he'll ban IVF, over and over and over again. Meanwhile, in reality, Trump was saying, no, I love IVF. I'm going to make it free. IVF, if you don't know, is the reproductive technology that helps people who are having fertility issues conceive, or people who use IVF through surrogacy have a child. It's a pretty actually expensive but fairly widespread technology in use at this point, including by a lot of Republicans and people who are pro-life, though some true diehard pro-lifers have ethical issues with it. Anyway, he's actually all in pro-IVF, but they kept saying, no, he's lying. He's actually going to ban it because that's what it says in Project 2025. And I rolled my eyes at them. I said, like, come on, he's not going to do that. That's not a thing. But they told me over and over again, this was the thing. And now he's in office and he has moved to ban IVF. Just kidding. He's done the opposite and just signed an executive order seeking to expand accessibility and affordability for IVF services for all Americans. Now, to be clear, this executive order doesn't do a ton because you need Congress to actually spend money. So it's a largely symbolic and recommendation-based executive order. It's entitled Fact Sheet President Donald Trump expands access to in vitro fertilization, IVF. It reads, the order directs policy recommendations to protect IVF access and aggressively reduce out-of-pocket and health plan costs for such treatments. So like I said, it's largely policy recommendations because there's not a ton he can actually do via executive action. But again, not the actions of a man who will ban IVF, as we were told over and over again. Here's a Kamala ad that they spammed at us in Michigan.
And I are going through IVF treatments now. It could be our only chance to have a family. But Donald Trump could ban IVF in some states. My husband is in the military. He volunteered to serve. We are patriots and we go where he is assigned. What if we end up in a state where IVF is no longer legal? What will we do then?
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Donald Trump, understand, he's not done. He would ban abortion nationwide. He would restrict access to birth control, put IVF treatments at risk, and force states to monitor women's pregnancies. Just Google Project 2025. Just Google it.
Guys, that was just 5 months ago that ad was being run, and this was being pushed nonstop. But it was, as I knew then, but as hopefully you can all see now, utter propaganda and lies. And they just can't help themselves. They do this about Donald Trump all the time. There's so many actual things that are controversial or that they could criticize him about, but instead they just have to lie and hyperventilate and push this catastrophic nonsense. But political campaigns lie, right? Like, I'm sure Trump put out some ads that were misleading or not true in different ways as well. I don't know. But that's not exactly, shocking. Oh, politician's campaign puts out false ad. But this wasn't just coming from the Kamala campaign. This was like a widespread Democrat talking point. Hillary Clinton tweeted, Trump and Project 2025 want to ban abortion, end IVF, monitor women's menstrual cycles, and more. The Democrats' official account tweeted, the only candidate running for president of the United States who will protect IVF is Vice President Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris tweeted, Donald Trump's Project 2025 agenda could effectively ban IVF, preventing families like Yesenia and her husband from their chance to have a child. Joe Biden tweeted, Republicans led by Donald Trump are threatening access to abortion, contraception, and IVF. Tim Walz posted, even if you've never gone through the hell of infertility, someone you know has. When Gwen and I were having trouble getting pregnant, the anxiety and frustration blotted out the sun. J.D. Vance opposing the miracle of IVF is a direct attack on my family and so many others. Meanwhile, everyone's favorite TikTok propagandist Harry Sisson tweeted, WTF, Donald Trump's press secretary was asked if Trump would protect IVF access and she refused to answer the question. She won't say if he'd sign a law to protect IVF or not. It's insane. This is the Republican Party. They want to control women. So how'd all that age? It aged like milk, It just, it's just so important to realize that so many of the narratives that you are hearing coming from political campaigns or coming from politicians on either side of the aisle aren't based in truth. They're not based in research. They're based in focus groups and poll testing, where they have researched and seen not what messages, they don't care if it's true or not, but what messages resonate with people. So they understand that a lot of people very strongly care about IVF because a lot of people's families were only made possible because of IVF. Like a very surprisingly high percentage of people have had to use this technology. And so they knew that going after it could stir people's emotions, could pull at their heartstrings. And so they're like, yeah, who cares that it's not true, that that it's the opposite of what Trump says his position is. We'll just run with it. We'll repeat it over and over again. And if you just repeat it enough times, people start to believe it, even if it's totally untrue. I mean, Trump has done this with various things, like Mexico was never going to pay for the wall, folks. But it's just such an important reminder to you guys to not believe just the claims you see made on TikTok, not believe the things you see in political ads that are being spammed at you by targeting to your state or whatever, and to always do your due diligence, always have critical thinking, and not just buy narratives just because people repeat them over and over again. And I again think there's just not enough accountability in our politics and in our media for people who get things totally horribly wrong. Like so many people who just completely pushed fake narratives with devastating consequences, everything from, oh, there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq to even less consequential things like Trump is going to ban IVF. There's just never any consequences for people in politics and media who say things. It's like it's because of the 24-hour news cycle or whatever. People move on so quickly, but actually, like, people should be held accountable for the wild, untrue claims and predictions they make. But it very rarely happens, unfortunately. You guys think, did you actually fall for that propaganda? I don't blame you if you did. It was pretty unrelenting. Do let me know in the comments. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please do make sure to subscribe if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button before you go. Remember to check out the merch store, linked in the description, and we will talk again real soon.